Good.
I'll
Sure.
introduce you.
Great. Okay. I just want to welcome everyone for showing up to this awesome opportunity. So first off, I think most of you have your names listed, so that's awesome. If you need to add your last name or if you want to put in your class year, you can do that just by hovering over your little box with your video, and up in the upper right hand corner you'll see 3 dots. If you click on that, you can rename yourself if you'd like, but it looks like just about everyone has at least a first name in, which is great. Second of all, I do want to mention that this is being recorded, which is kind of a blanket statement. If you don't want to be recorded, your face, you can always turn your video off if you'd like. Also, once we get going, I'm going to mute everybody and then unmute Lawrence and Jessica so that we're not hearing people's background noise. You do have the ability to unmute yourself. So later on, once Jessica's done with her formal remarks, I will be monitoring the chat window. So if you have questions while Jessica's talking or when she's drawing or just questions in general, please put that in the chat feature, and it should go to everyone so everyone can see each other's questions so we're not repeating things. Let's see. I think, am I forgetting anything, Lawrence? As far as
Jessica had mentioned that she may do a sort of a virtual walk around the room, looking at people's work and perhaps sharing some comments or answering questions. And if she doesn't get to you today, she very graciously offered to allow us to share her email address and you can send an image of your drawing that she's willing to give some feedback on, or if you just want to share it, or if you'd like more information of other virtual arts events. So that will be available in the chat later on.
Awesome, thank you. So I think right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everyone. I think I can do that through here. And here we go. Okay, Lawrence, you're unmuted, and Jessica is also unmuted.
Thanks so much, Allie. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're here today for this Hamilton virtual class, art lesson with Jessica Dalrymple, Hamilton 94. I'm Lawrence Drozd. I'm in the advancement office. I'm joined by Allie Forbes, and our colleague Katie Boyer is also here on Zoom with us today. I'll take a moment here to introduce our wonderful instructor, and then we'll get started. Jessica Dalrymple earned a BA from Hamilton College, graduating cum laude with honors in fine art. She trained as a painter at the Art Students League of New York and now maintains a studio in Brooklyn, New York, where she works in oils and mixed media. She has exhibited her work with national and regional juried shows, receiving numerous awards, and her work is held in both private and public collections. In addition to her studio practice, she collaborates with organizations to create art events that raise awareness about the local landscape and the environment at large. Dually impassioned by art and nature, she studies horticulture at Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, prunes city streets, licensed by Trees, New York, and teaches botanical drawing. She's taught as an adjunct professor for NJIT's College of Art and Design, led open-air painting workshops, and currently teaches painting at Trestle Workshops. I'm so very pleased to welcome Jessica Dalrymple.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's so great to see so many familiar faces and see new faces as well. I don't know how many if any of you joined us for the Hamilton weekend in the fall. I feel that maybe a couple people have. Some people look familiar, but so yeah, so I just want to, we only have an hour, but we can do a lot in an hour, and I'm excited about that. And so the way this is going to go, I'm going to give a little chat. and a little demonstration here on my clipboard easel here that's set up. But mostly you guys are just going to draw, and I'm going to come around and while you're drawing, and if you have a question, you can ask me and I'm going to answer, and everyone will hear the answer. And chances are most people have similar questions, so it will be good for you for everybody to hear that. But if I don't make it around to everyone, as Lauren said, you're welcome to text me a picture or email me or send me a direct message through Instagram, any of those ways with an image of what you've done, and I will be happy to give you feedback and some tips about how to maybe finish your drawing, because you might not be able to finish it today. But so I'm going to assume that you all haven't done too much drawing, although some of you maybe have. So I'm just going to start by telling you a few basic things. And then again, I just want you to draw and have fun with it and just feel like, you know, I don't want you to get too caught up or worried about doing it correctly. This is really about just having a pencil in your hand and moving and looking at your object. A lot of drawing is actually observing. So sometimes I like to say, especially in my botanical classes, it's really drawing as a vehicle for observing. So it allows you to look more closely at your object or whatever it is that you're drawing. And as you place your attention on it, it reveals itself more. And so you'll start to see more and more details. And that's really exciting. And it sort of comes alive right in front of your face. So, you know, whereas at first you just see one thing, and then the more you look, the more you draw, the more you see. And it's an exchange, really. So let's start by, and I think you all, hopefully you have a couple of objects. And what you're going to do when it comes time to draw is you're just going to put your object on one of the pieces of paper or on a tabletop in a way that you can see it. If you want to draw two and, you know, finish it later, that's fine. That would be a still life, just kind of if you want to arrange the three objects all together. But the reason why I had to take, to bring three things is because I think to pick the simplest one is a good way to go. Sometimes people get excited about a very complicated form. And if they're a beginner, I you know, tend to recommend that they go with something that's simple for starters. I mean, you're welcome to take a stab at absolutely anything, and that's fine with me, but that's just my recommendation. So what I want to talk about is, oh, sorry, I'm just looking for my charcoal. Here's a couple of real basic things that I'm going to talk about. When I talk about a simple form, what I mean is that we all know shapes, and we know these basic shapes, right? Sort of triangle, circle, rectangle, square. So these are our basic shapes. So this is the flat two-dimensional version, but then a form is the three-dimensional version of these. So for a triangle, we have a cone. For a circle, we have a sphere, which right now looks the same as a circle because we haven't done any shading on it. This rectangle could be a cylinder. See, like this. And the square would become three-dimensionally a cube. So this is really basic stuff. But that's, you know, that's what's great is it's all really simple. So almost any form that you see out there in the world is going to, at its base, is going to be something like one of these forms. And so one of the things we try to do is we train our eye to sort of see which one of these basic forms something is. So when you look at a tree trunk and you're going to draw it, you want to, and it's called mass conceiving. That's kind of the technical term. So we want to mass conceive, what is that tree trunk? Well, it's probably a cylinder, so that we want to identify it as its basic form. And that's kind of the building block. That's where we start. So if you're trying to draw an apple, you're going to recognize that it's a sphere, more or less. A ball would be a very simple example of that. A bottle or a can or something like that, we would recognize also as a cylinder. And so one of the keys to drawing is being able to mass conceive, to see these simple forms and get those down first. And after you have that basic form, then you're going to add on top of it. You're going to put your details on top of it. So one example to show you what I mean by that, let's talk about a head, for example, which is an ovoid. Sort of, it's really a sphere and then an ovoid, sort of an egg on top of it, right? So let's draw that real quick, real rough. Can you guys see that? Okay, good. So if we're gonna draw a head, somebody's head, the first thing we're gonna do is that shape. And then we're gonna add on top of it. So on top of that, we're gonna have, following it, we're gonna add the eyes on top, onto that. So we always go from the largest to the smallest. Then we put the eyebrows on top of it. They're gonna follow that form. Lips, and even the hair will be on top of that shape. So it's a really simple concept, but it's something that we don't necessarily think about when we're just sketching and just picking up a pencil for the first time. Okay, so moving on to another concept. There's two kinds of drawing. One is a contour drawing. A contour drawing just means a line drawing. So you're just drawing the outline of something that you're looking at. And you're also maybe drawing the plane. Let me think, trying to see something I can draw in here. I happen to have this bowl right here. So a contour drawing of this bowl would be drawing the outline. So I'm first looking at it, and I'm seeing this top is an ellipse, which is a circle in perspective. And then it's the bottom. So these are the lines. And then I might add some details around it. And again, if it's the details go on top after you have this basic shape, basic form. So I'm trying to distinguish between a contour drawing and a value drawing. So a value drawing is when so the contours is an outline. It's basically the lines. And a value drawing is where you're trying to render the tonality of light hitting that form. And you may or may not want to try doing that today, but it's something just to keep in mind for future drawings. And I'm going to do a little demonstration of how that works. And it is a really nice thing to do on a drawing because it really creates the illusion of 3D once you start adding those values. I mean, just a contour drawing will also create that illusion of 3D, but the light effect really even more so. So I'm gonna turn this upside down. Actually, I'm gonna turn it over and I'm gonna show you what I mean about, I don't wanna talk too long, but let me check the time. Okay, so this will be real quick. So here we have, I'm gonna show you light on a sphere. So let's say the light source is coming from here. We're going to have a light side. Can you guys see that? Or is that too, maybe I should do this a little bit bigger. I'm going to do this a little bit bigger. So if the light is coming from one direction, it's going to hit this way and it's going to create a shadow on one side. So then this becomes the shadow side. That's the part of the object that's not facing the light. And this is the light side. There are all kinds of like fancy terms, but I don't want to confuse you all right now. So let's just keep it focused on a light side and a dark side. This is where the stump would come in handy to do a little bit of smudgy smudge, but I'm going to use my finger. This is sort of called halftone, where the light meets the shadow color. And then there's going to be a cast shadow, and you guys can try to do that in your drawing today. If you have, it might be hard to see if you have too much light coming from all different directions. But again, today I just want you to learn how to sort of see these things. So even if you can't do it and you don't feel confident trying to draw this, a great opportunity for you today would be to just even try to see these different kinds of light. And squinting your eyes helps you do that. So you look at your object and squint your eyes, and you can really start to see maybe what's the light side, what's the dark side, where are the shadows happening. If the light's coming from here, it's going to be casting a shadow out this way. And that happens because this object is in between the light source. So it's sort of scientific, right? It's just what's happening. And then, of course, we're artists, we're not scientists, so then we take artistic license and we kind of move things around how we want to. But I find it very helpful to know how light works in this kind of scientific way. And as the cast shadow moves away, it's going to get a little bit lighter because there's light is like bouncing in, right? It's blocked here, but then there's going to be light coming from other areas. Light's also going to be bouncing back into the shadow side of the form here, so we can have what we call reflected light. And then in the light side, we're also going to see a highlight, and that's usually, so that's where the light is directly hitting. And I know even if you don't draw much, you've maybe seen in a cartoon, you've seen a balloon, you know, maybe you drew them when you were little and you drew that highlight. You probably didn't even know what you were doing, but that's what that is. The light hitting directly, and then it's bouncing back at our eye. And then, you know, if you want to add a little bit of a background to your drawing, that's fine too. Just if you want to put it in a context, that's really easy. It could be as simple as just 2 lines, and then all of a sudden it's sitting somewhere. Okay, so those are some of the basics of light on hitting form, and as different from a contour drawing. So when I'm doing a drawing, I start out with a contour, and often we start a little bit lighter. So we sketch a little more lightly, and then we move in with a heavier line when we feel more confident about where we're placing things and about how we're seeing the object. And then we start working in the values if we want to do that. Again, you know, if you want to try to do that today. So those are some basic concepts that I wanted to share with you all. And now, I think, so we're gonna start, you guys are gonna start drawing. And one thing I like to do in my classes is just a little warm up exercise, and that's to get loosened up and to feel just, it's a little bit like doing scales if you're playing the piano. So if everyone has 3 pieces of paper, I want you to take out your first piece of paper and get your writing utensil out. And what I want you to do for this exercise is just, I'm going to time them, and they're each going to be very short, like 1 or 2 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer. And the first one we're going to do is just going to be figure 8s. And I just want you to, let me set the timer. Okay. So here we go. Hold your pencil loosely. You know, you don't want to be too tight. I use just sort of an underhanded grip, but if you feel more comfortable like this, that's okay too. And just kind of just start making some figure 8s, and they can overlap each other. They can move around, big ones, small ones. Just keep your pencil to the paper. You don't even have to lift it up. Just kind of keep moving it. And I don't know if you can see this, but my whole arm is moving, not just my wrist. And that's the benefit of this sort of grip, of the underhanded grip. But even if you're holding it overhand, the way you hold a pencil normally, it's also good to just try to move your arm. That's funny. I was just going to say, I don't hear anyone drawing, but then I remembered you're all muted. Okay.
As I mentioned before, if people have questions, you can put it in the chat box and I'll pass it along.
Yeah, questions. Questions are good. Okay, so now for the next one, we are going to, I want you to do some just mark making, and that's squiggles, lines. I want you to pull your graphite, push it, drag it, kind of squiggles, squiggly lines, circular lines, straight lines, just anything that you kind of can think of. Just moving it all around your surface.
Hey, Jessica, I have a request. Someone would like to see the underhand grip once more, how you're holding it.
Oh, sure, yeah. Okay, so I'm holding it like this, and I usually do this when I'm using charcoal. So I have my fingers are coming around the top, and then my thumb is holding it like this. I also sometimes do draw like this. It's just a different approach. So if I'm using a pencil, this is sort of the overhand. It's not like that. But I guess the difference is where the back is. If I'm the underhand, it's going into my palm. And then I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm using charcoal here just so you guys can see it because it's so much darker than graphite. So I thought that would be a more effective thing to do on Zoom. Okay, now then the next warm-up exercise I want you guys to do, I want everyone to do is, oops. Okay, so this one is shapes. And I want you to draw some of the shapes that I just demonstrated before and try to do them in all different sizes. And they can overlap with each other. They can be upside down. You can stack them, anything you can think of. It's fun to try doing ellipses too. Like I said before, ellipses are circles in perspective. So that is to say, when you look at this bowl, as it changes, that ellipse changes shape, eventually it turns into a circle when it's straight on. And as it goes into perspective, it's all these different ellipses to get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier until when it's at eye level, it's just a straight line. So that's a fun thing to try to do. Skinny circles, skinny ellipses, or circles. I guess they are skinny circles. Okay. So for our next and final exercise, this is a little bit harder, but I think you can do it. I know you can do it. This is going to be a value study. And so I want you to make a set of boxes. And if you don't feel very confident, I would recommend doing 5 or 6. If you feel like you have some experience drawing, if you feel a little more confident, you could try 8 or 9 boxes. Say 8, so try 8. And so what you're gonna do is, oh, sorry, back to the charcoal. You know, you kind of, so this is a value study, and you're gonna make, I'll make 8 boxes in here. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I did 8 perfectly. That's cool. And what we do here is we try to get the range in values all the way from the white of the paper, which is the lightest, to the darkest. And so then the darkest would be number 8. And then we're going to try to find all those values in between in a gradation. So I mean, people, you can do it however you want. I usually start, if I'm doing it, I usually start from the darkest, and I try to go lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit, all the way to white. It's a little bit tricky, but it's a really good practice, way to warm up. And I'm going to time us. Again, this is just an exercise, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It just, I just wanted you to get a sense of values and the gradation and the different tones that you can accomplish with your pencil. So I'm going to time this for 5 minutes. Actually, maybe 3 minutes. I didn't realize it's already 4:30. Okay. So the trick to this really is you're going to use less pressure as you press the graphite onto the paper. As you move closer to the white box. And if you've gone too hard in one of your boxes and you feel like you want to lighten it up, there's a way to do that just with your eraser. You can sort of erase, you can use the eraser in such a way that you just pull some of the graphite off, kind of that top layer. You don't have to go all the way down to the paper. You can just sort of gently pull some of it off, and that will change that value. So these are values. I hope I said that. And sometimes as you get towards the white, it's also just not filling it in completely. So having some white lines sort of in between your light lines. Sometimes using the side, you might want to try the side of your pencils, another effective way to shade and to color, to sort of apply the graphite, especially if you want to go darker. Everybody. Is everybody almost done with that? Just nod, I guess, if you're, okay. Okay, great. Looks like everyone's ready for the next. Okay, great. Okay, great. So I think we're ready to draw your object now.
Does anybody have any quick questions before moving on to the next?
Okay. Yeah, so I just recommend pulling, choosing one of your objects. And as I recommended before, if you feel less confident, the simpler the object, so the more it looks like a cylinder or a sphere or a rectangle, the better. Whereas something, let's say, for example, trying to think of something, a more complicated object, like a high heel shoe or something might be a little tricky. That would be fun to draw. I think anything's good. Could you guys hold up what you're going to draw maybe so I could see? Could everyone hold up their object? Okay, great. Nice. Chair, a plant. Okay, very good. Oh, those are really good. Oh, I like all that. Okay, I'm going to the next screen. Let's see. Everybody has Pringles. Excellent. A mug. Good. This basket. Nice. Yeah, those all look good, and they all, have a nice simplicity to them. Patrick has a plant. Good. Anthony. Elle has a plant. Squash. Great. Okay, terrific. So yeah, so put them on your, put your object on one of those extra pieces of paper you have. And if you happen to have a lamp or a light source, that's always great. But I don't want to require that. But if you do, you can create your light source so there's just one light source. If you want to turn off the light behind you and then just leave one on the object, that will help you see the values better. But it's not necessary. So I'm gonna let you guys get started and then give you a few minutes, and then I'll just start coming around individually and I'll ask you some questions, and you can ask me a question if you have one. If you don't and you just want me to pass on, that's fine too. I'll just keep moving on to the next person. When I teach my classes, I have a sort of a policy whereby I tell my students to just shoo me away if they don't want any attention, because drawing is, really does, sometimes you really get into a zone, and that's often when you do your best work. So I try not to intrude on that and just be available for questions.
Jess, we have a little bit of a fun comment in the chat. Gina, yeah. Gina, I think, is a classmate of yours.
Yes, Gina.
She asks, do you miss drawing in Dunham Basement?
That's a good question. That's so funny. Yeah, nope. My first studio in New York City was also in a basement, and it reminded me of Dunham, and I was there for 10 years, and that was in the Greenwich Village here in the city. And so, but it's a little tough. Basements are tough, I think. I could feel my mood just as I descended the stairs. Just, the lack of light was a little challenging. But yeah, no, Dunham was fun. Susie, what are you drawing? Eleanor, what are you guys going to draw? Can you unmute yourself? I don't know what that, I can't see what that is for some reason.
Oh, this is a box that I'm going to attempt to do. But Eleanor has already been doing some work on her own. She wanted to share with you.
Oh, great. Wonderful. I'll start with you two. Wait, can you, Eleanor, can you put that up again a little bit closer? Okay.
It's a phone.
It's your phone.
Yeah, good. I'm sorry that I couldn't see it that well. I am going to suggest that I put my phone number in the chat box, And you can also email me, or sorry, you can text me an image and I'll look at it on my phone. I don't know if that sounds complicated, but
We have it.
but I like.
We have your phone number and your email address at the very top of the chat. So
Okay,
if people
great.
scroll
Yeah.
back, they'll be able to see it.
Okay, great. So Eleanor, Eleanor, I think that the contours are really good. So I like the detail you got going on your phone there. That looks really nice. Can you hold up again? I'm going to give you a suggestion. Okay. Can you put it even closer? Is that possible? Ah, perfect. That's so much better. Yeah, great. Okay. I see it. Oh, I like that. Okay, great. So the one thing, so it looks like you're looking at it straight on, and that looks great. You've got some really nice details. So if you wanted to try to make it a little more three-dimensional, you could try adding another plane. What I mean by that is objects have different planes, and because it's a rectangle, you have the shape of it, but to get the full form of it, you would see, right? So you drew the top of it like this, right? Which is great, and you have all that wonderful detail. But if you wanted to make it look a little more three-dimensional, you would add a side plane. So you would just do like this. And then suddenly it has another dimension and it becomes a form. So I don't know if you could see how I did that, but it might require just putting your phone on and then looking at the side of it. Can you see how it has the top? It has the top plane and then it has two sides, right? So that's something you could try. If you want to try adding that could make it a little more three-dimensional, but I do love the contour that you drew and all those details. So good job.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna move, let's see. Susie hasn't started, so I will move on. Everyone's probably just getting started. Does anyone want to raise their hand that is having trouble getting started? Okay, I'm gonna move to the next screen. See who's there. Melissa. I think everyone's just busily working, so I'm gonna give everyone a few minutes there. Hi, Melissa. To get going. Oh, there's another screen. Wait. No, just two. Okay.
Do we have one here? Victoria? What are we seeing?
Victoria? Yeah, Vicki, how's it going?
Can we unmute there?
Hi, we're listening to you. My son is drawing a golf course.
Is drawing a golf course?
Yeah.
That's great.
A golf course that you probably never understand.
We're going off on a different tangent, but we're listening.
I love it. Are you drawing it from a picture on a screen or a photograph?
He has an easel with paper, so he's just drawing.
Great. That sounds good.
My mom's the one that's
What's your name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas? Can I see what you're drawing?
It's not fully done.
Great. Yeah.
All's meant to go through the holes. Then you made
Okay.
through these the bumps or something.
is the thing on the right, is that a flag where the,
Yes.
okay, where the hole is?
The ball goes down in the hole, and then it goes back up into the a bowl, and then I'm not done drawing it yet. That's
Okay.
going to be a goal for hitting balls with a cart.
Okay, good. That sounds good. That sounds like
In
fun.
the sky, it's the sun.
Yeah,
Said it.
great. I'm glad you're going to get the sky in. That's, whoops. Okay. I'm going to come up to Vivian and Devin. How are you guys doing up there?
We're doing fine. So I'm drawing a vase here.
Could you put it a little bit closer? Okay, great. Oh, nice. Yeah, good.
Just trying to get some of the shading going now.
Yeah, great. That looks really nice. And Devin?
Glasses.
Sunglasses.
Glasses. Oh, great. Oh, terrific. Oh, can you put it a little bit closer? Okay. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, great. So if you have the glasses sitting on your piece of paper, I would also suggest trying to sketch in a little cast shadow. If are you seeing a cast shadow?
Yeah.
Okay, so try to sketch that in as well, because that will give it kind of ground it and give it a, sort of a pop and a personality and a context, if you feel confident doing that.
Okay.
So one thing about drawing, I would say too, is we usually start out lightly, kind of a sketchy, light drawing, and then, you can go a little bit heavier once you feel like you're confident in the placement of your drawing. Then you can make a sort of a heavier mark, and that's that's how you sort of express yourself also as an artist, changing the weight, the pressure of your pencil.
Mhm.
So how's it going, Jeff? Jeff Melton?
Thank you.
What are you drawing? Oh, nice. Oh, I love it. That's great. So that's great. Yeah, that is a nice
Yeah, well,
spherical shape.
I'm remembering now why I quit drawing and went to sculpture.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah.
Did you sculpt that? Did you make that?
No, this is actually my grandmother got this in Mexico in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
So
That's really,
yeah.
really charming. So do you have because it does help if you have a light source and if you squint at it, sometimes it does help see it better. Maybe you.
Well, because I just finished up with my rubber duck.
Oh, okay. Can I see do you want to share the drawing or?
Yeah, I just did a fast little
Oh, great. Oh, that's so cute. That's great. A little warm up with the rubber duck, and now.
Yeah, so we're going to the big bird.
Okay, great. So with that bird, yeah, it's very spherical. So I think that will help you. Let me show you. Since it has such a nice roundness, just make sure you're getting that round body first, and then putting the feathers and things, those details on top, right? So.
Right. So like make an ellipsoid and then add the tail and head and feathers.
Yeah, exactly. And just trying to feel the form. Sometimes you have to go around it a few times lightly, just to kind of get the sense of it. And I think that helps me too. And artists call them construction lines. And that's sort of what you're doing, is you're sort of feeling the form with your drawing utensil. So sometimes even if you have to do those and then erase them later, it might help you kind of create that shape that I think it kind of went down like this. So kind of going around, feeling around it. If that makes sense.
Yep. I
Do you have
did.
any other-
This is, I took drawing with Bruce Muirhead many years ago. So it's kind of coming back to me.
Yeah. You know, I think that's great. I think that people sometimes feel intimidated by drawing, and they feel that they have to put a line down that's accurate and that's perfect. And so what I like to tell people is that drawing is redrawing, and it's erasing, and it's moving lines, and it's feeling, and it's getting a little messy with it sometimes. And so I think people, insofar as people are thinking, they have to kind of get the exact accurate depiction and placement right away, prevents people from drawing because I think they're not good at it. And so I do try to encourage a lot of lines and a lot of sketchiness, whatever it takes really, to get a feeling for what you're capturing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I went to sculpture though, because I want to actually, I want to feel the line.
Oh, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
You want to feel the whole thing. Yeah.
I
Well,
want
that's,
touch it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's there definitely an illusion here, just on paper, to get that full dimension is not always easy, but it's also you know, just looking and being careful and looking closely and moving things and constantly relating, holding your pencil up if you're drawing something like this. I know somebody, I'm sorry, I forgot. Oh, Vivian is drawing a picture. And so sometimes using your pencil as a tool to measure things, and that's what you do is you hold your arm out, lock your elbow, and you just kind of hold it up as a way to gauge where things are. So by doing that, you can see where things line up. Sure, that tells you a lot. Like I'm saying, oh, the bottom of the spout, if I have my pencil parallel, that's about halfway down this handle. You see that? So that can help you with your accuracy, just comparing and contrasting. Sometimes just going this way as well, you might just drop this down at the center line to figure out how far over you want to, you know, just to find, to get the width correct. You might start by putting a center line down and then measuring an equal part to each edge. So those are some measuring tricks. Okay, so let me move around, keep moving around. Sarah, was that helpful, Jeff?
Yeah, no, good, thank you.
Okay, good.
Jessica,
yeah.
Jessica, I think
Yeah.
a little bit ago, maybe Michelle waved a little bit. Michelle Losardo. I don't know if she's interested.
Michelle, maybe she's in the other screen. Let me toggle over there. Michelle?
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, I was having,
do you have a question?
Yeah, I was having trouble. I'm trying to draw the dog, and I know it's dark in here, but
I can see it. Yeah.
so I'm having trouble like with, again, drawing what I see versus what I perceive.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can, probably can't
Yeah,
see.
put it up as close as you can. Oh yeah, that's looking good.
You know,
Yep,
just trying to get like the positions of the legs, because in my mind
Right.
I'm thinking of where they should be, but yet they're not always there. Drawing it three-dimensionally, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I know that it is tricky, and that's a complicated form that you're drawing, so that makes it harder. It looks really good. I think sometimes just checking things is, so sighting is a measuring technique that artists use. And the way it works is you create a measurement on your drawing utensil. So let's say with that dog, you could say that the width of the head, you could create that as your measuring unit.
I see.
And so you see, okay, this is the width of the head, and you kind of mark it with the end of your thumb. And then so then you want to decide, well, how many heads make up the width of the whole dog, and how many you measure across? Oh, it's 3. And that's how you kind of find that point, and then you kind of put that point, kind of work your way around that way. Does that make sense?
It does, because I was kind of having trouble between, I started with the head, but then as I went to the body seemed a little bit larger than what the head should be. So
Yeah.
maybe do the opposite, right? And just enlarge the head now that I've spent more time on the body.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's where the redrawing comes in, and it's a constant checking that happens when you're drawing at this stage. And so that's just the process. You haven't done anything wrong. So yeah, well, and it's always good not to get too attached or too far into detail. It's another reason why we emphasize to get the placement and the contour, kind of figure out where everything is before you start adding the details on, because you don't want to sort of fall in love with some details and then realize the head's completely in the wrong place and you have to erase it. But yeah, you can definitely at this point change the, I think maybe, oops. I think, I don't know if everyone's muted, but
I'm having a roof done at my house, so that's why I'm trying to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know what the banging was. No, that's fine. Show me again one more time. I just want to make sure I can.
So.
Yeah, I think that's looking really good.
Now on this object, it does have shading color because of the fur.
Yes.
Any hints for like where this is shaded differently naturally compared to how to do the light casts and the?
Oh, I see what you mean. You mean because like the head is gray and the body is white?
Yeah, and even the body has some different colors in the back. But are there any hints for how to add that shadowing and light cast when you do have an object with different shades?
Sure. Yeah. So what will happen is the ears are dark on the dog, and so you're going to have if any of the ear color is in shadow, it's just going to be darker. And so if there's an ear that's not in shadow, that will be the ear color not in shadow, and then you'll have the ear color in shadow, which would be a darker version. And one you can actually use, I don't know, did you make the 8 boxes of the value study?
I did.
Little value.
Yes.
So you can actually use that as a tool and hold it up when you squint your eye at your object that you're looking at and you're trying to gauge the values. So you might look at it and then, do you actually have a cast shadow, or are you just creating a cast shadow?
I do. I have a light.
That
actually helped me for the
terrific.
placement of the feet. So
great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah, so you can draw what you see, but then just keep that in mind, that if there is a light version, if some of the ear is in light, it's going to be a lighter version of that dark color. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that does. Thank you. I'll mute because I know with the background noise, it's probably very distracting.
Yeah, no problem. Definitely send me your picture when you're done.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Jessica, just a time check. It's about 4:59, so I didn't know if you take any more questions or.
Yeah. Does anybody have any anyone want to raise their hand and we have a look? Everyone's probably only halfway through, I would suspect. Let's see. Okay, Susan. Okay, great. And is this the squash? Oh, can you hold it up vertically? Oh, you were painting it. Oh, you're drawing it on its side. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't need, let me see the drawing. Could you put it a little closer to the screen, as close as you can, like even closer? Okay, closer. Sorry, I just want to be able to see it. Okay, up a little bit higher. A little higher. A little higher. Perfect. Okay, that's great. Okay, look, okay, that looks really good. You have a really nice contour going, and I see you're trying to get, I see your indication of the shadow, and one thing you've done really well is the shape of your shadow. The dark side is great. You knew sort of intuitively that this mimics, so the line, you knew that this shape of the shadow was going to mimic the edge of the object, which is great because that is what happens. So what I would suggest you do is make that shadow could go a little bit darker, and then try to create some half tone in between. And what I mean by that is something in between a light and a dark. That's going to be where the shadow meets the light. So I think you could probably go a little bit darker where right now where the light is meeting the shadow. And then you could, you know, pull it up a little bit, cheat it up a tiny bit, or just like right now I see the line. So I would suggest softening the line that right now you have.
Right. Yeah, and I'm working on a very textured paper, so I'm having a hard time smudging or, you know, blending.
Oh yeah, yes, right. I hear you. So
I'm trying
maybe
with my fingers.
I know, in a pinch, a finger is a good way to go, definitely. So yeah, just maybe try to soften that line, and it could be that you just want to go darker in that shadow. But that's but yeah, you got a great job rendering the shape. It looks really good. And then I would also suggest creating a cast shadow if you can see one. If you could create a cast shadow somewhere, I don't know which, even if it's little. And then another kind of drawing trick is underneath your object is usually, even if there's not a strong light source, right under the object is what's called a dark accent, where there's no light hitting at all. And sometimes just kind of trying to sketch that in also sort of grounds the object and gives it a context. So kind of getting that in, like the cast shadow might go this way. Well, in your case, it's lying on its side. I don't know if you can see this. Go back to my screen. But I know we're running out of time, so I just want to make sure that, first of all, I want to make sure, I mean, I'm willing to stay a little bit longer if anybody would like to stay a little longer. I don't know if the Zoom meeting can do that. But please do send me I would love to see anyone's drawing.
I had, so Gina had a really great suggestion, which was before everyone starts hopping off, to hold up their drawings really close to their camera so that I can take a picture of everyone's work.
Yeah, great idea.
Before everyone, you know, individually hops off. And then I realized there are a couple people who had their hands raised, like Heather Kirkland and Sharon Hammer. We can get to your questions, but first I think maybe a picture would be fun.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, great. Those are looking terrific. Really good, everyone.
All right,
Love this plant and the urn and mug. Great.
Nice.
The cast shadow is fantastic on the glasses. Good job.
Keep them up. I'm going to go to the next screen.
Share the mug. These look terrific, everyone. All right.
All right. Thank you. I think I got both screens.
Great. And so does anyone have another question?
Is Heather still on? Oh, there you
Heather?
are.
Just any critique on it? I'm like a real newbie on this.
Yeah, let me see yours again. Yeah, that looks great. Could you go a little, could you put it as close as you possibly can to the closer than you even think? Little, even more. Okay. Yeah, good. Could you go a little closer with it? Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, okay, so I can tell you one thing.
Can I put it down now? Okay.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, that looks really good. I like your cast shadow, and you're getting a nice, definitely getting a sense of light on that, and that's terrific. Please do send me, email me your picture and I can send you some more thoughts when I look at it. But I guess right off the top, I'm looking at the cast shadow and I noticed you had kind of a line in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to just unify that shadow and just
Oh,
make it.
of course, now I have
sort
the
of-
dog barking. Why don't I just email it to you?
That's fine. You know what? That's a good idea.
I'll do that because I'm having trouble
Great.
hearing too.
Yeah, great. Yeah, please do.
Jessica, why don't we take one more? I know that Sharon had her hand raised. So Sharon Hammer.
Yeah. Sharon. Okay, I think.
Hey, I guess it's the same thing. This is the item I was trying to go for,
Hi, Sharon. Yeah, great.
and this is what we
That's
ended
good.
up with.
Okay, great. Come a little closer with the picture.
No worries.
Yeah, that looks really nice. Really nice. Yeah, it looks great. So right now, I think you have a really nice, accurate, nice drawing. You got the shape and the contour really well. I like that you have some darks and lights, so it has a nice pop, and you gave it a little bit of a context. You could definitely probably darken the cast shadow a bit to give it a little bit of a grounding. And right now, it's more of a contour drawing and has a little bit of a light source, but not too much. So if you wanted to try to do that by lighting it from one side and then squinting and getting that, but it also looks really nice just like that. And you did a great job with the perspective. I can definitely see that I'm looking down at it to a certain, and so that's great. And would you like to keep working on it, or how do you feel about it?
I guess the question I would have is,
Yeah.
especially with the sphere, I know this would probably, if I did a close study, I could see it a lot more clearly. But when you have something like very sharp, especially with something like this object here, which is very reflective, how would you kind of demonstrate that very sharp contrast? Like I can see the window, I can see the light source from the object. How would you recommend kind of demonstrating?
You mean because it's so reflective, do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So like I think what you're saying is that within the highlight, you're seeing the window reflected in there, like the window pane.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes, you know, unless you're doing a photorealistic kind of rendering, you can simplify that and just make it kind of use your eraser as a tool, as a drawing tool. So to get a highlight, you can actually just use your eraser to pull off as much as you can. And if the highlight is going to be the brightest part of your drawing and of your object, so you can pull right down to the white of the paper, and that will create the effect. Let me show you. Allison, are you trying to get my attention? Oh, okay. So let's pretend that this, that it's on this pear here. I mean, this squash. And it's real dark. So you're there's actually, this eraser I'm using here is called the gummy eraser, and it's especially good for charcoal, but I'm just going to use it to pull off the highlight. And it can be just kind of like a swipe. And then you can kind of go back.
And you get the contrast without kind of making it like chibi, like very highlighted.
Right.
That's what my big fear is, just kind of ending up outlining it almost.
Yeah. So, right, exactly. So you're you're simplifying what that highlight is instead of getting too caught up in, I know sometimes if I'm painting or drawing a bottle, and sometimes you can see all kinds of things reflected into those highlights, and I'll just simplify it to kind of a blob, a small blob, basically. and I might just soften it a little bit like this, and then to brighten up the whole area, and then go back and go into a smaller, keep kind of going back into it. Now I'm going to go back into the center of it. So I've kind of lightened up the whole area. I've lightened up not just where the highlight's going to be, but kind of where the highlight is sitting on it, like create like a little bit of a mound. So I'm going to kind of pull some more away, and then go back with the eraser right into the center of it, and then pull. And it's a pull sometimes, like almost like a stroke if you're painting.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Okay, cool. Sorry, I think that's really, really interesting. So if you see me baffled, that's why.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Perfect. Yeah, that was the one thing I think I had a question on. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and please send me your picture when you're done.
Absolutely.
Jessica,
any questions?
I think we're heading toward the end of our time here, and we've had some lovely comments of thanks. What a great idea. Thank you. Great way to close the afternoon. Such a fun Tuesday afternoon. Thank you so much. And I want to add my thanks to everyone who's joined us. It's great to see the children as well. My daughter is 10 years old. She's been sitting down here following along and drawing as well. So.
Oh, good. Well, I hope you guys all got a lot. I know I kind of threw a lot at you at the beginning. And then it's a lot to digest quickly and then try to draw, but it looks like you all did a really good job. And I think your next drawing, it might all sink in a little bit. And, I recommend, keeping a sketchbook going, and all you need is a pencil and the pad. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's really not about that. It feels good. It's about making marks. It's about learning how to see differently. And, even if you're just doodling, it's still a fun way to engage with the world around you. So I hope that I hope no one feels frustrated, because it should just be fun. And definitely email me your images and any questions, and keep in touch.
So Jessica's email and phone number is up at the top of the chat. If you want to scroll up and jot that down quickly, we'll keep it going just a little bit so you can copy that down. Thank you so much, Jessica. That was super fun.
Thank you. It was really fun. So great to see everyone. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Very wonderful.
Bye.